following is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com. Live video streaming of this event is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln and online at merealty.com. All right, a couple minutes late, but we are here on the 4 p.m. 411. It is actually 4:04 p.m. My name is Loyd Kirby, and this is the 4 p.m. 411, where we talk to folks from around the area about current events and ongoing issues, and folks who play a role in what's happening in our community. So it is the first Tuesday of the month, which means our guest is Mayor Tracy Welch. Mayor Welch, thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
And before we talk about upcoming things, let's maybe take a look in the rear view mirror for a minute and talk about the weekend of balloons over 66 that just concluded. Seems like maybe the weather wasn't as cooperative as it could have been, but overall, it based on the feedback I saw online and the things that I've heard just anecdotally, it sounds like everything was as much of a success as it could be given the weather.
You nailed it. Given the circumstances, yep, everything went off the way it was planned, except for the weather prevented some of the flights from taking place, and a little too windy to glow. They tried. We were out there in the field with them, and we certainly tried to get the balloons up, but the wind just wasn't cooperating. They did get a flight early morning Saturday, but the winds were just extremely slow. Mm-hmm. But, all of the events and activities were going on downtown, the barbecue competitions, dock dogs, the art fair, the entertainment. So from all perspectives, it seems everybody had a good time and enjoyed it.
Right.
Maybe next year the weather will hold out and it'll be a little bit more exciting from that angle. But, yeah, overall.
And I think that you raised the point about the other things going on. That was sort of one of the, back with the previous version of the Balloon Festival, one of the mindset that sort of did away with the big one weekend event was, if we get rain, everything's rained out. Whereas if there's just balloons this weekend and just an art fair this weekend and so forth, if rain happens one weekend, you've got the other weekends to kind of maybe recoup some of that income for the city and so forth. I guess you could kind of look at it from the other side too. If the weather is bad and the balloons don't go up, if it was only balloons this weekend, then people probably would have packed and gone home. But since we did have the art fair and the dock dogs and the barbecue and the so forth, there was still, as you mentioned, plenty of things to do and reasons for folks to stick around. So,
yeah, there was, there's feedback that came out of it, and those members that are responsible for organizing it, they got some of that feedback live. I was on some of those channels as well, and I could see it coming in, and I know that they're going to do a recap and look at the feedback, see how they can improve next year. But every year is a growing opportunity, and they'll make adjustments. But I, to your point, I'm glad that it's back together for that reason. Mm-hmm. In case one part doesn't exactly work out, there's still things for people to do in town. Mm-hmm. And there was also a big softball tournament going on as well in town.
Oh, that's right.
So awful lot going on. Restaurants were busy. The hotels were packed. I mean, all things considered, we couldn't have asked for a better weekend.
All right. So, once again, our guest is Mayor Tracy Welch, 217-648-5510, the number to call if you have a question or comment, or if you would like to email your question, 4pm411 at WLCNonline.com. So that's a look in the rearview mirror. Actually, not quite. I noticed the calendar behind you, and the one behind me says September. Isn't there a big announcement you were going to bring us in September?
Nothing new to share on that front.
About Lincoln College.
Keep looking forward.
All right. Well, I had to do my duty and ask the question anyway. So, yep. But as far as you know, in terms of Lincoln College reopening, whatever happens with that, things are still on track. I mean, I know obviously that you're waiting for those individuals behind the scenes that are involved with that to make their announcement, but as far as you know, there's no changes or anything.
Yeah, the information that's been shared is still current as far as we know.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and look forward, or at least look currently. I did see something, or actually we had it in our newscast this morning about the road resurfacing project, or is that what it's called? Resurfacing, repaving project?
Yeah, road resurfacing.
Okay. So you've talked about this before on the show, but how does that, for those who maybe didn't catch it, how does that process kind of evolve to where we know which roads are going to be resurfaced at what times and so forth?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination between some tooling that we have available, and then also the superintendent, Mr. Landers. He's familiar with the condition of roads throughout the community, him and his crew. So we take that combined with a scoring system based on our roads and conditions, and then he chooses targets based on all of that compiled information, brings them to the council, and the council will have a discussion about those. Sometimes it's just, we'll accept what you brought us. Other times it's like, can we swap out this road for that one because we think it needs more attention? Mm-hmm. And once he gets the go-ahead, then it's a matter of going out for bids, getting the contractors, getting the money allocated, and then getting it in place and moving, and that's where we're at now. And starting today. Yeah,
I thought it was beginning today. So then how... I know when we've talked about a separate project, when we talked about the park revitalization or the revamping and updating of the different parks, that it's kind of a one park per year model or plan that the council had. Is it similar for the roads? Because obviously you can't repave everything at once. Is there sort of a, I don't know, the town's broken up into fourths or sixths or something?
Yeah, it's broken up into 4 wards, and before it was, let's take a look at the roads just in town as a whole. Mm-hmm. And several years back, those of us on the council at the time said, hey, we'd like for the people that are in our wards to get some fair treatment when it comes to roads. So now we take that into consideration too, is, are there roads in Ward 1 that we can focus on, and the same with each of the wards. Mm-hmm. It's not an exact science. It works out pretty well. But you're right. We got a lot of roads in town, and we have a limited amount of money, where I think we're up to about $1 million a year that we could put into roads, but that only takes us so far.
Right.
So we have to be very, very intentional and precise about the roads that we target. And I'd like to say that we could move faster, but we'll see what happens in years to come.
All right. Our guest is Mayor Tracy Welch. Once again, 217-648-5510, the number to call if you have questions questions or comments. Be sure to tune in tomorrow morning to the Viewpoint program when Dara Entwistle will have members of the Atlanta Fall Festival Planning Committee, and they will be talking about the upcoming events with the Atlanta Fall Festival. But for the next 20 minutes or so, we have Mayor Tracy Welch. We'll go ahead and take our first break, and we'll be back in 2 minutes with more from Mayor Welch. Live video streaming of this event is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com. For you, but we can give it a go. So okay. We are back with Mayor Tracy Welch. Once again, 217-648-5510, the number to call. We're talking about what we were going to talk about. So let's go ahead with the sort of the fun, good topic you mentioned with the artwork on the underpasses over on College and Kickapoo Streets. Some people, I don't know how heavily traveled that area is, but I know when my wife and I used to kind of live not too far from there, it was always nice to kind of drive through there in what would otherwise be sort of a, I don't know, dingy or just kind of a forgotten area had a little more cheer and brightness to it. So can you kind of tell us what that project is and what the future holds for it? Yeah,
not necessarily a city project. We were approached, or I was here recently, from one of the local Boy Scout troops, and they have an Eagle Scout, and they have to do projects each year. And I was asked if the city would consider allowing an Eagle Scout to take on those locations you mentioned. One's at the end of West Kickapoo Street. If you go all the way down the hill, past the wastewater treatment plant, that's the first one, and I think it's light blue, and it's got flowers and some stuff on it. Right. It looks like nice graffiti. And then the other one, South College Street, in that same area, and took it to council, and the council was very receptive. I think the council would like to bring them in and have them talk to us about what they envision putting on there to make sure that it's appropriate and friendly. But yeah, I mean, the paint that's on there, it's chipping off. It's been a long time since I was redone. So hopefully they'll move forward with that project, and we can see some new artwork up there.
And speaking of artwork, when you mentioned that about paint chipping off, I think we've talked about this maybe a couple months ago, but the murals that are kind of around downtown when the Wall Dogs came to town and so forth. I can't remember what we talked about. I remember we talked about it, just that perhaps at some point those could be updated. Yeah. Has there been any kind of discussion or reaching out to any groups or anything happening on that front?
Yeah, the mural that's going to go on the side of the Welcome Park, the building there right next to the Welcome Park in downtown, that and it's side of Rio Grande's building.
Right.
That particular mural has already been approved by the council.
Okay.
The funding for it has been, and we had the artist come in within the last 3 to 4 weeks and talk with us about his visions and things he's done. So that's going to be kicking off here soon. And then also we did talk about some of the murals around town. We had talked about that with historic preservation. It's probably been several months back. Same artist, and we want to put a program together where they come in and take care of those. Painting them on the side of buildings, I think, is kind of an older way of doing things. They're now about putting them on materials that are durable and can be removed from the buildings if need be. And that's what this mural on Rio Grande's building is going to be like. But it all goes back to money, and there's some private donors that want to help kick it off with some of the smaller murals. So once that artist is ready, I mean, some of us are ready to go to chip in to make some of that happen out of our own pockets.
Okay. And so when you say removable, be like just mounting something on the side of the building as opposed to painting directly on the brick or whatever the outside?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah, the mural can either be painted on site on that material on the ground or done in a shop, and then they transport it to the site and they hang it.
Okay. All right. And no sort of timetable yet on that as far as when the bigger picture, other buildings might be included on
the other buildings, not sure. The mural for the Welcome Park there as you're coming in on Route 66, I think we'll probably see that in the early spring.
Okay.
If I was a betting man. The artist himself is going to go, he mentioned that he's going to have some downtime here coming into the winter months, so give him time to get it done, get it prepped, and then come spring, I think it'll be a nice unveiling for that area.
And so, kind of keeping with the theme of downtown, we've talked about it before as far as the cameras and the safety initiative. As far as originally we were talking about a particular alley or a couple block, I guess. But you mentioned to me that we're looking a little bit bigger picture now as far as the area that might encompass.
Yeah, so I mean, downtown area has some alleys in it that they're dark, and some of those are actually exits and parking areas for businesses. And late at night, some employees feel a little unsafe and uncomfortable, and so that's where this started, was to give some attention to some alleys that really needed it. And we also have had feedback over the years about chairs, on the square. Some chairs have been damaged, and pots and things that businesses put outside. We've seen panes of broken glass before. Right. And so it's really not intended to catch people in the act of things. It's really more intended to serve as a way of creating a safe environment for that downtown area. And this software and these cameras that we're looking into getting off the ground, which council approved as part of the budget, the first phase of this, they have some pretty impressive technology that, if they're constantly recording, and if we saw like a red truck on Thursday at 3:00 that was involved in a crime, you could go back on cameras and you could try to identify them. Same with people and things like that. So it just creates an opportunity for us to create a safer, better environment for the people that live here, for our businesses, and the people that visit.
Yeah, and that I was not aware there was that kind of technology involved. I just figured it was, basically a bunch of recorders, and then if something happens, you have to go back and manually sift through the footage and see what you can see. But
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And that's also the same system that we use at the police department.
Oh, okay.
So that's one of the reasons for moving forward with that package. But that company also is going to be talking to businesses too. Well, if they would like to partner up and put a camera of similar technology on the outside of their business, then this company is more than willing to work with them. So maybe we'll get something good started in what we're trying to accomplish here and move forward.
Right. And then if it is all the same company, then I'm guessing there's some integration that would be more possible than if it were separate companies. Like if something happens in downtown, something gets damaged, and maybe, like you said, a red truck is seen, and maybe there's a red truck on some call that an officer had to go out on and stop someone, that things might match up that way. So very cool. And this, of course, all for the sort of the goal of bettering Lincoln and making things better. Another organization coming to town that we've mentioned before that it was possible was the Work Camp for Life organization.
Yep.
And that, I think the last time you were here, maybe they were presenting to the council that evening, or maybe that was a couple.
Yeah, I was gone that night, but Todd Henry did come in. He's the local gentleman who helps head that up, and he has a team with him, and they bring in hundreds of teens that are not from our area. Some of them are, but a lot of them are from other communities, and they really just come in and they got a list of projects for individuals throughout the community they tackle, whether it's like a wheelchair ramp or painting a porch or things like that to improve the community and the quality of life. And it's pretty impressive that you get young teens that are willing to give up their time and come to a strange community. They spend an entire week here, and so that we try to make the experience inviting for them as well. And the council, I'm blessed that we have a good council that sees the value in this and they want to support it. So hopefully this is a thing for years to come.
Right, and we're heading into our second break here, but two questions about that. Number one, you mentioned there are several projects that the individuals tackle. How are they made aware of those projects? And number two, if someone perhaps needed a wheelchair ramp or was in need of something, how would they kind of get on the organization's radar? Is it a group in the city that forwards tasks to the organization? How does that work?
I believe Todd is partnering with the Community Action Partnership and Capsule. People know that as Capsule.
Right.
And if you go out to their website or call their office, I'd be also glad to share Todd's information as well. But if you get with them, they can get you on the list. They can tell you the type of projects that they'll take on, and then they can take it from there.
And then is that, for example, if someone is in need of a wheelchair ramp, is the individual, do they pay for the supplies? Are the supplies donated, or is that
there's no cost to the homeowners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So it's a lot of getting donations, getting people into town, finding places for these people to sleep, food donated. Last year I tried to arrange, some entertainment for these young adults that come to town. Didn't pull it off, but going to try to pull it off again this time.
Okay.
And what he's talking about now is the 2024 program.
Right.
So now's the time to find out and get your name on the list if you're interested.
Okay, very good. So we'll be back with our last segment with Mayor Tracy Welch right after this. And we are back on the 4 p.m. 411 with Lincoln Mayor Tracy Welch. Got just a few minutes left, 217-648-5510. If you have any questions or comments for the mayor, be sure to tune in tomorrow morning to Viewpoint when Dara Entwistle will have members of the Atlanta Fall Festival committee on talking about their upcoming event this weekend. But as I mentioned, right now we have Mayor Welch with us. Been talking about several things to do with the betterment of the community, and we've talked before about how when a community grows, you want to have that infrastructure in place and things to be solid. Lots of things happening with the internet around town and installation of cables and things like that. I had never really considered much about the topic, but I know out where my wife and I live, we had, I won't mention the company, but we had one company come in and they were there pretty much a day or two, and a very small footprint or disruption to the existing yard and so forth. And then we had another company come in that pulled some trailers and parked some equipment in our ditch overnight, and had a much bigger footprint. So I guess is there anything you can tell us about the status of the installations with those different companies that are in town, and if a resident has an issue or complaint or something, is there how can that be addressed?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, there's 3 different companies. 2 of them are in town, and I can say the names of them because they're public knowledge, but I3 was the first company that came to town, and I3 came and put their green vaults in throughout the community, and it's important to note that the placement of these vaults, they're in the public right-of-way. Okay. So if you see them putting something in what appears to be your yard, more than likely they're in the right-of-way, and this is when we start to learn about what our boundaries are with right-of-ways and things. Very surprising where that right-of-way is until you actually have to learn about it this way. But I3, they came through and agreed when they came through my place. They were there a day. Their gentleman dug a hole, moved on. The next company is CTI, and we've talked with both these companies already. We've had meetings between them and the city, and I think we have some expectations lined out for what we think our constituents are asking for and how they operate, and they're willing to accommodate. We've also got a component here where they're digging under city streets and sidewalks, and so we're trying to protect, to your point, our infrastructure, that when we repave a road, we don't want that tore up. So we're trying to make sure that that's laid out. But CTI is in, and then Rise Broadband is coming behind them. So the unfortunate part is, yes, you're going to have 3 separate companies in front of your house at one point or the other. They're supposed to be operating in the right-of-way. I'd like to say that it's perfect and that any of the companies won't hit another utility, a competitor, a gas line, a water line, but everything's buried underground, and they do their best to locate it, but sometimes things happen. And so, to your second point, if something happens or you got a concern, call the city. You can call the Municipal Services Building or Streets and Alley Department. Walt Landers is heading that up. He's serving as our point of contact. But you can call your alderman, call me as the mayor. We'll be glad to get you in touch with the right people.
And then we've mentioned before on the show about the app as far as reporting problems. Is that something folks could use for this, or is a phone call a better way to get your...
No, I mean, I think either work. To one of the alderman's points last week in a conversation, the app, not everybody has a mobile phone, so still pick up a phone and call if you need to, or go in person to the office. That's fine. But we do have an app. It's called GoLink, GoLinc. It's in the Apple and the Android store. It's got geolocation built in. You can take a picture. You can write a description. It tags exactly where it's happening. You send it in, and it goes to the right department, and they'll address the issue. And the good thing about the app is you don't have to follow up to ask what's going on. When they address it, you'll get a message back on your phone that says the action that's been taken.
Okay. And once again, GoLink, GoLinc.
Yep.
Is the name of the app.
It's a red icon with the city seal in the center of it.
Okay, very cool. So, gosh, it is 4:30, so time flies when you're having fun. Fifth Street sidewalk projects. I know things are going on there. Once again, talking about bettering the city and infrastructure and so forth. Any particular points you want to get out there to folks?
Yeah, not the most glamorous of topics, but I mean, it's sidewalks, and we all use them from time to time. Some of our sidewalks are old; they're falling apart. They're not in good shape. So there are targets, just like there are for roads. There's targets for the sidewalks, and they're doing a lot of sidewalk repairs and replacements down Fifth Street. Not to be confused with the Fifth Street Road project going on. This is in town within the city limits.
Right.
But yeah, getting a lot of new sidewalk out there. It looks great. So if you see our crews out there, that's what they're doing.
Okay, very good. So once again, Mayor Tracy Welch, our guest today. We'll talk to you in a month, I guess.
Yep, see you then.
Hopefully we'll talk maybe more about an opening college at that point. But information will be public. So once again, this has been the 4 p.m. 411. We invite you to tune in tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. to 8:30, when Dara Entwistle will host Viewpoint with members of the Atlanta Fall Festival Committee. But for now, I'm Loyd Kirby, and thank you for watching and listening to Viewpoint. Live video streaming of this event is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com. The preceding program is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com.